She writes, if any of you follow or take into consideration anything Jordan Peterson says, please unfriend me now. Thanks. Jesus. This episode of The Study is brought to you by Facts Don't Care About Your Feelings, not giving a shit about your butt hurt since 19 fucking forever. We're going to call this one The Case Against Dr. Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson is a professor at the University of Toronto, author of 2 books, Maps of Meaning, and the best-selling 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos, and also a clinical psychologist. This episode is inspired by a less than pleasant interaction I had with a radical intersectional feminist online. Let me state first that I have nothing against this person personally. It's not the person that I'm attacking, it's the behavior. I've been less than a fan of machismo and chauvinistic men for as long as I can remember. I referred to the song that I wrote for the album Long Dark Night called The Evil That Men Can Do. Again, it's not the people behind these radical leftist ideas who I'm against. It's the ideas themselves. It's the behavior that this brand of ideology perpetuates. I'm not anti-feminist. It's hard for me to even understand what feminism really means. As many of you know, I went to the Women's March to try to understand better what the movement was all about. Met up with Medea Benjamin, who was a wonderful person, proudly rocked the pussy hat while delivering a performance of They Don't Care About Us, where I suggest that we're not doing so well. Talk about, looking into the Green Party and the Venus Project and things like that. Trying to talk solutions to the many problems that men and women face. The whole point, and just in case anyone's wondering, the reason I rocked the pussy hat was fuck Trump. He's a stupid man who has no solutions. Well, you remember his grab him by the pussy comment. So that's what the pussy hat meant for me. Fuck this idiot. He has no solutions, and why are we even giving him the time of day? So again, nothing against individuals, whether you identify as feminist or not, who are sick and tired of, sexist behavior. I'm no fan of sexism. I'm no fan of woman hating, and I'm no fan of man hating. I think both ways of thinking are pretty pathetic. Back to her original post. She writes, if any of you follow or take into consideration anything Jordan Peterson says, please unfriend me now. Thanks. I left it alone for a little while because I knew what this was. This was just an attempt to get her followers to sort of pat her on the ass with, yeah, right on, I agree with you, like, agree with me kind of talk. I don't know if this was actually an attempt at actually having a conversation. It was an attempt to make a point. So I left it alone, and I read the comments. The first comment, and again, all these people will remain unnamed. I screenshotted everything, but I decided not to use the screenshots because it's not these people who I'm attacking, it's these ideologies and this kiss-ass attitude of, yeah, we're going to agree with you because we like you or whatever. The first comment reads this, one of those agreements like, I agree with this, with a thumbs up emoji. The second comment, by a person who I thought was a little bit more reasonable, just looked him up, WTF, ? And is followed up by another comment that reads, that guy is an idiot, to which the radical intersectional feminist replies, right? I can't believe people talk about him like he's some brilliant intellectual. To which the second commenter replies, Makes me wonder how our species has made it this far. The third comment reads, some quasi-religious dude that spews alt-right rhetoric. No wonder I haven't heard of him. Think about what that says. You've never heard of him, but you're going to go ahead and decide that he's, quote-unquote, some quasi-religious dude that spews alt-right rhetoric. I'm having a lot of trouble understanding, thinking that you can label someone who you've never heard of as something like a quasi-religious dude that spews alt-right rhetoric, or as anything. If you've never heard of the person, how can you label them anything? Just leave it at I've never heard of them and I don't know what this person's about. But again, this is a bunch of kiss-ass followers who want to sort of pat her on the ass. Not helpful to the conversation, to a real conversation. It's not helpful. The fourth comment reads, and again, this is by someone who is a Venus Project supporter and usually pretty reasonable. It's actually it's not a comment, so to speak. It's this person posted two links. The first one is a link to this Facebook video called The Imaginarium of Dr. Jordan Peterson, which is a hilarious video that attempts to use scary special effects, turning the screen red, making creepy noises, and using a lot of reverb and delay to sort of exaggerate his message, and is edited pretty nefariously to try to make a case against things that he's said and make him look like, I don't know, like whatever it is they want him to look like. And the second comment from the fourth commenter is a link to a YouTube video called Jordan Peterson versus Peter Jordanson. This is a satirical video taken from two separate Joe Rogan Experience podcasts, each featuring Jordan Peterson, where it's edited in such a way that it's meant to look like he's having a conversation with himself. Again, it's a satirical video. It's basically a joke. And I think it's pretty weak to try to make a serious case against somebody using a satirical video that's edited in such a way to try to prove a very specific ideological point, or to try to tarnish somebody, or to try to make it seem as if somebody is saying something that they're not. The fifth comment, and the only reasonable one, by a reasonable friend of mine, she writes, "Don't know him." That's beautiful. I don't know the guy, I've never heard of him. The sixth comment is where I finally decide to chime in. Now, mind you, I'm trying to actually have a conversation. I want some dialogue. I want to know what it is people are up to, what it is people are thinking. I'm not here to kiss your ass, and I'm not here to try to make you look bad. So I comment, what might you say bothers you about him? Pretty reasonable question. If I had something in mind that bothered me about somebody, I'd be able to state it. The first reply to my comment was from the fourth commenter. Again, someone who is a Venus Project supporter and usually pretty reasonable, is a meme that says, his face. So what bothers this person most about Jordan Peterson is his face, which is kind of funny, but it's a weak argument. It's not even, I wouldn't even say it's an argument against him. Then finally, the radical feminist replies. Her reply is a link to a website called WeHuntedTheMammoth.com, which, according to their website, is an ad-free, reader-supported publication written and published by longtime journalist David Futrelle, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, who has been tracking, dissecting, and mocking the growing misogynistic backlash since 2010, exposing the hateful ideologies of men's rights activists, incels, alt-rightists, and many others. Sounds like a credible website to me. I'll go ahead and read you the bullshit that the article states. Again, I was looking for some thought. Mind you, I was hoping that she would actually make a case against him and actually state what it is that bothers her about Jordan Peterson. but instead she decides to send me to this website. It's an article about asshole Chris Cleary. It's an article titled "Incel Arrested in Utah for Threatening to, quote, kill as many girls as I see," end quote, shows why the idea of, quote unquote, enforced monogamy is so dangerous. The article reads, "No one casually watching Christopher Wayne Clearly's YouTube channel would suspect that the 27-year-old Denver man has a long history of stalking and threatening women, culminating in his arrest last Saturday in Utah after he posted an angry Facebook screed warning, which is supposed to read screen warning, that he would soon take symbolic revenge on, quote unquote, all the girls turn me down by killing as many girls as I see." God, this idiot can't even write. The article continues, "Though his words echoed those of the infamous incel killer Elliot Rodger, whose day of retribution against women left 6 dead in Isla Vista, California in 2014, Clearly's YouTube videos give no hint of the rage festering beneath the surface. There are no misogynistic rants or grandiose pronouncements. The channel is instead devoted to sports and to mukbang videos," whatever the fuck that is, "in which Clearly chats amiably while eating hamburgers and pizza and other fast food staples. He appears nothing like the stereotype of the angry, socially awkward incel. It's quite a contrast to the message Clearly posted on Facebook that led to his arrest." And this is the message this asshole Clearly, who can barely fucking write, posted on Facebook apparently. It says, "All I wanted was a girlfriend. Not 1,000, not a bunch of hoes, not money, none of that. All I wanted was to be loved, yet no one cares about me. I'm 27 years old and I've never had a girlfriend before, and I'm still a virgin. This is why I'm planning on shooting up a public place soon and being the next mass shooter, 'cause I'm ready to die and all the girls turned me down is going to make it right by killing as many girls as I see." This guy's a fucking idiot. It's not even written properly. I'm not sure how this article and this asshole's comments make a case against Jordan Peterson. My best guess is this radical feminist activist was commenting on something Jordan Peterson said about enforced monogamy. If you'd like to know what Jordan Peterson actually said about enforced monogamy, here it is. Jordan Peterson was asked by Dave Rubin, "What do you mean by enforced monogamy?" His answer was, "We could start by what I don't mean. I don't mean taking innocent women at gunpoint and handing them over to useless men, which is essentially the accusation. What I meant was monogamy as something that's socially valued appears to be a human universal. That doesn't mean that human beings are universally monogamous, because obviously we're not." He continues, "There's a strong proclivity across known societies to tilt towards monogamy, and the enforcement is social norms." He goes on to say, "What else is enforced monogamy? Most people want a monogamous relationship, and if they enter a relationship with someone, they're not happy if that person goes and sleeps around, right?" He then goes on to say, "That's part of enforced monogamy." He also adds, "And you might have noticed, you probably did, polygamy is actually illegal. You can't have multiple marital partners simultaneously. That's enforced monogamy." He concludes by saying, "I think that monogamy, all things considered, is a good idea." I'll link to the clip from the Dave Rubin interview in the video description here. Another clip where Jordan Peterson actually talks about what he meant by enforced monogamy from the Joe Rogan Experience. I'll also link to that video. You know, I think if you're going to make a case against somebody and something they said, it would be a good idea to use their words and things that they actually said, not some website like this Hunted the Mammoth bullshit. In another video you can find on YouTube where Jordan Peterson talks about the spiritual utility of marriage, he says, "We're so immaturely cynical as a culture. We're not wise enough to look at an institution like marriage and to think about what it means and what it signifies. It signifies a place where people can tie the ropes of their lives together so that they're stronger. It signifies a place where people can tell the truth to one another. It signifies a place where sexuality can properly be integrated into life. That's no easy task. It's a place where children, at least in principle, can be put first and foremost as they should be once they exist. Those are Jordan Peterson's actual words. All right, so if you want to make a case against somebody, whether it be Jordan Peterson or anybody else, it's helpful to actually use their words or try to make a case against something that they've actually said, a chapter in their book, a piece from one of their lectures, a segment from one of their interviews, to actually make a case against the words that they use and the ideas that they're actually supporting. So getting back to the comment thread, my reply to that nonsensical comment with no original thought was, I ask, was that a copy and paste? I asked because I was actually interested in your own thoughts, not someone else's. You're a flexible thinker who is somehow into Fresco, Carlin, and feminism, and I have a lot of respect for you in that way. But if it's a hot button issue you'd rather not articulate on, we can leave it at that. And I meant what I said. The ideas that Jacques Fresco, George Carlin, and the plethora of ideas that go along with feminism is a complex thing. And I meant what I said. I have a lot of respect for you in that way. And if it's a hot button issue you'd rather not articulate on, we can leave it at that. I wasn't interested in arguing. That wasn't the point of my commenting on this. I actually wanted some thoughts on this. And her reply was, yeah, it was a copy and paste, but I agree so. So she admits that obviously it was a copy and paste. So she admits that she agrees with this mammoth hunting article about this asshole Chris Cleary. She replies again by trying to turn it against me and still not making a case against Jordan Peterson. She uses my words, tries to use my words against me. Somehow into Fresco, Carlin, and feminism. What's that supposed to mean? So this is what people with no argument and no point to make do. They try to turn the conversation around and make it about something that it's not. My original question was, what would you say bothers you about him? Now she's trying to make it about, my words. She then replies again, what doesn't bother you about Jordan Peterson is the real question. Yeah. No, the real question was, what bothers you? But again, she's trying to turn the conversation around and make it about things that I'm saying in an attempt to duck having to make an actual case against him or say anything intelligibly about what she might disagree with him about. Another reply to my comment goes like this, and this is a reply from the second commenter. It reads, pseudo-intellectual equals Jordan Peterson. I replied to her triggered comments by saying, somehow means that those three perspectives often conflict with each other, and they do. Carlin has spoken less than politely about feminism. Fresco suggests that there are, quote-unquote, no women problems, only human problems. And sensing her triggeredness and sensing that this isn't probably going to go anywhere, I add, you don't have to articulate what I asked. You can leave it at copy and paste. I'm trying to make it obvious that this isn't a battle of wits. I'm no fan of people being talked about in ways that are simply trying to smear them. If you have something against somebody, an idea or a group, let it be known and articulate it, intelligently. But the smearing, the pre-rehearsed rhetoric with no original thought is what I can't stand. Then she replies, still not answering the question or making a case against Jordan Peterson, you might want to listen to Carlin again. This comment is accompanied by a link to a video on YouTube called Women and Their Own Problems, which is an excerpt from George Carlin's book, When Will Jesus Bring the Pork Chops? I listened to the video. I love When Will Jesus Bring the Pork Chops. I actually have the book, one of my faves. The video is an excerpt from this page. The video somewhat summarizes a part of When Will Jesus Bring the Pork Chops called Guys and Dolls Part 1, which is on page 22. My favorite part of this video goes like this. Carlin says, "The truth is women have to buy, own, and wear an unbelievably bewildering number of garments. Slips, half-slips, camisoles, thongs, panties, pantyhose, stockings, half-hose, knee-highs, anklets, socks, leg warmers, garter belts, girdles, corsets, training bras, padded bras, sports bras, nursing bras, push-up bras, strapless bras, wonder bras, bustiers, teddies, pennycoats, peignoirs, negligees, nightgowns, shorties, muumuus, body stockings, blouses, sweaters, jerseys, pullovers, halter tops, miniskirts, maxi skirts, slacks, suits, sunsuits, business suits, pantsuits, culottes, capris, shorts, short shorts, hot pants, formal gowns, bridal gowns, evening gowns, street dresses, sundresses, cocktail dresses, house coats, winter coats, fall coats, spring coats, hats, scarves, pins, necklaces, pendants, medallions, lockets, bracelets, ankle bracelets, earrings, wedding rings, engagement rings, friendship rings, thumb rings, toe rings, and optional, of course, nipple, nose, and labia rings. And let's not even begin to talk about shoes. Tennis shoes, open toes, slingbacks, mules, wedgies, flats, half heels, and high heels. High heels that damage a woman's feet, ankles, and knees, but make her ass look great." Funny enough, that's something that Jordan Peterson commented on in an interview with a smug young reporter, where he was trying to address the problem of sexual displays at the workplace and mentioned that high heels are there to exaggerate sexual attractiveness, and they are. So she has a problem with Peterson and his points of view, and here Carlin is making the same point that Jordan Peterson made in that interview about high heels make a woman's ass look great, which is what they're designed to do. This part of the video concludes, "Now, generally, all this obsession with appearance has one purpose: it's supposed to lead to romance." Anyway, I watched and listened to the links that she sent because, again, I'm trying to have actual dialogue here. I'm not trying to be, unreasonably combative. So I listened to it. My thoughts were, no, women do not have to buy most of this shit. And I know plenty that don't. When Will Jesus Bring the Pork Chops is not exactly the best book to base your real-world logic on. It's a great book. I recommend everybody reads it. It's funny as shit. But it's not... Again, it's not a case against Jordan Peterson. My original question was, what would you say bothers you about him? Now, I found this comment particularly funny because, again, she's not articulating any original thought or integrating any of her personal experience into what it is that pisses her off so much about Peterson. But I especially find it funny because this young 20-some-year-old is trying to play "What Did Carlin Say with Me?" And if you want to play the "What Did Carlin Say" game with me,
let's play.
George Carlin also said,
"I like to piss off any group that takes itself a little bit too seriously. And it does not take a lot of imagination to piss off a feminist. Feminists want to control your language. Feminists want to tell you how to talk. And they're not alone. I'm not picking on the feminists. They got a lot of company in this country. There's a lot of groups, a lot of institutions in this country want to control your language. Tell you what you can say and what you can't say. Political activists, anti-bias groups, special interest groups are going to suggest the correct political vocabulary, the way you ought to be saying things, and that's where the feminists come in. I've noticed that most of these feminists are white, middle-class women. They don't give a shit about black women's problems. They don't care about Latino women. All they're interested in is their own reproductive freedom and their pocketbooks. They take it too far. They take themselves too seriously. They exaggerate."
So be careful who you play the Carlin said game with. Her reply was, "As for Jacques' quote, if anyone used that to silence individual problems within the monetary system, obviously doesn't understand the quote. That's poorly written." I think what she's trying to say is anyone who uses that, or anyone who used that to silence individual problems within the monetary system, obviously doesn't understand the quote. She continues, "In a resource-based economy, all human problems would be eradicated, or most anyway. But within our current system, race, gender, age, class, etc. applies." Again, still not making a case against Jordan Peterson, still not articulating any original thought. But by this point, I have no reason to expect that there's anything real that's going to come from this. It's just a triggered radical feminist activist who's just going to keep spewing copy and paste rhetoric from anywhere she can draw to try to make a case against, I don't know, the character she has, turned Jordan Peterson into in her own mind. As for Jacques' quote, if anyone used that to silence individual problems, no one's trying to silence you. I'm simply trying to get your thoughts. I'm trying to do the opposite of silence you. I'm trying to give you a chance to actually articulate yourself and make a case for what it is you have against him. Mind you, I don't agree with everything Jordan Peterson says. My problem with this particular post of hers is the ridiculousness of it and the emptiness of any original thought or any solid case against him. She replies again, I can advocate for a RBE, which is resource-based economy, and still fight injustices within our current system. It's not clear to me how it is that she's fighting injustices. Social justice warrior types, keyboard activists often say this kind of thing, fighting injustices. My reply to her butthurt and offended replies go, right on. I know you're a flexible thinker. More power to you. You asked what doesn't bother me about him. I can start with what does. I think he's incredibly short-sighted with regard to environmental restoration and has nothing to say about the benefits of machine automation, probably because of the fact that it can do away with capitalism. However, for starters, in order to think, and this is a quote by Jordan Peterson, in order to think you have to risk being offensive is pretty spot on. Again, I really was interested in your own thoughts and what I asked. But again, I'm not going to beat a dead horse about a question you don't want to answer. That's my reply. She replies with, LOL, and once again, I answered what I thought. No, you copy and pasted a mammoth hunting article which stated no case against Peterson, just made a straw man case against the idea that you would like people to take home about enforced monogamy, which has nothing to do with what Jordan Peterson means by enforced monogamy. You copy and pasted George Carlin and still have made no effort to contribute any original thought or personal experience to what it is that bothers you about him, which was my original question. She replies again, still trying to deflect from the original comment and question. And I feel we've already discussed this before about JP, but Carlin, Jacques, and feminism. Well, we're not on any previous discussion. We're on this discussion. Like, that doesn't make any sense. I feel we've already discussed this before, not about JP, not about Jordan Peterson, but Carlin, Jacques, and feminism. My question wasn't about Carlin, Jacques, or feminism. My question was, what might you say bothers you about him? And referring to Jordan Peterson. So we haven't already discussed this before. Again, she's trying to deflect and trying to run desperately from having to make and articulate any real case against Jordan Peterson. My reply to that comment was, and as far as people using anything to silence anyone, I'm very much against silencing people and no platforming people, which I am. It's childish and pathetic, and I don't count copy and paste as the same thing as articulating thoughts, which I don't. The last reply from this feminist with a meme by Twitter user Cecilia, it's a radical feminist putting words into the mouth of every man and basically generalizing men, which is pretty pathetic. I'm not in favor of men generalizing women, women generalizing men, blacks being generalized, Latinos being generalized. I'm not in favor of anyone being generalized. I'm very much in favor of people being looked at as individuals, which is why I don't identify as a vegan. I don't identify as a rapper. I don't identify as Latino or Hispanic, because I'm a fucking individual. The meme reads, quote, please explain to me what you mean, prove it, and provide backup information even though I don't actually care and won't listen to what you say anyway, end quote. Signed, Men. She also comments, LOL, just leave me alone, seriously. I can understand that. My last reply was a laugh emoji. I couldn't help but find that ridiculous meme trying to generalize all men in that disgusting way hilarious. And that's the end of that. So again, I don't have a problem with this person in particular. I think it wasn't a very good case. I think she didn't make a case at all against what it is that bothers her about Jordan Peterson. I think what happens is, and I'll let Peterson put it in his own words.
It's the chattering buzz of ideologically possessed demons. There's nothing in it that's not entirely predictable. That's one of the things you notice when you're talking to people. If you want to find out whether the person is there or the ideology is there, you listen to see if you're hearing anything that someone else of the same ideological mindset couldn't have told you.
One of the things that bothers me most about living in this day and age is the outrage culture. People are so quick to generalize and characterize, and instead of making actual, intelligent cases against the things and people and ideas and groups that bother them, they throw out this generic fortune cookie rhetoric that provides no serious and no deep analysis of the real problem at hand, and really just causes more confusion. It adds more noise to an already noisy internet. Lady Gaga recently said on a late night talk show that
social media, quite frankly, is the toilet of the internet.
Yes, it is.
It's just
I totally agree. I'd also like to conclude that this person, this radical intersectional feminist activist, is not a person I have a problem with personally. In fact, I wanted to interview her at the Women's March. I was looking forward to it. I have over an hour of footage where I'm talking to individuals at the march and asking them why they're here, what it is they hope to see change in this country. Trying to understand not just the feminist movement, but trying to understand these people as individuals and why it is that they came here and what it is they want to see different about the state of our country and our way of life here. I was very impressed with a lot of people and what they said, but I was also disappointed at how empty a lot of people's words were. I wanted to make an episode of the study using all the interviews I compiled that day and trying to give these people a voice, but unfortunately it didn't pan out. And also I wasn't able to meet up with this person because, as anybody who was there at the Women's March may have noticed, cell phone service pretty much went to hell, and I wasn't able to communicate with her or anybody at the march, so we weren't able to coordinate. But I wanted to get her thoughts on not just feminism, but feminism in the age of Trump, and I wanted her to voice it from her own opinion. But the more and more I read her posts, her comments, her feeds, the less and less impressed I was, and the less I began to expect any original and serious thought about the state of affairs would come from a conversation between her and I. So I decided to just scrap that and move forward with other things. It's not individual activists or individual feminists that I have a problem with. If feminism means fighting for equality of opportunity, that men and women should have the same opportunities in life, that we would benefit as a society, as a planet, from both sexes contributing the best of their abilities, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. So, in conclusion, I'm no fan of people being smeared and mischaracterized, especially in this day and age where everyone has a platform, everyone has a social media channel, everyone has a YouTube channel, and everyone who wants to gets to spew their ideas or their rhetoric or their hate online. It's very noisy, and we live in the most distracted time in human history. But also, I'm getting the feeling that we live in the most hungry for knowledge time that has ever existed, and I think people are looking for serious answers to serious problems. One thing that these people who try to make a case against Jordan Peterson usually never do is address anything in his book. You might be familiar with the book 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos, which is a worldwide bestseller. It's being translated into many languages. They usually say things like transphobic, misogynist, he's a Nazi, he's an alt-righter, They failed to say anything about, for example, Rule 2. Treat yourself like someone who you are responsible for helping, which I don't think is a bad idea, and I think is a great chapter. Rule 3. Make friends with people who want the best for you. They don't say anything about that. Rule 4. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. They say nothing about Rule 7. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. They don't say anything about Rule 10. Be precise in your speech. You know, I think that'd be helpful. I think people being precise in their speech and really getting down to the bottom of what it is that they're trying to say and what bothers them about the world wouldn't be a bad idea. And I don't think it would hurt people trying to make a case against Jordan Peterson to start addressing some of his words and his thoughts rather than straw-manning him and trying to paint him as this character of the alt-right using articles from, for example, the Mammoth Hunter. I don't agree with everything Jordan Peterson says. I think he's a brilliant person. I think he's an honest person. I think he's trying to help. I think he really does want the best for people. And I think it pisses off a lot of radical feminists that he's done more for women than they ever will.
I've had many, many women, extraordinarily competent women, in my clinical and consulting practice, and we put together strategies for their career development that involve continual pushing, competing for higher wages, and often tripled their wages within a 5-year period, teaching them how to negotiate. That. Of course.
So do you?
He has said himself that he's received more letters of support from transgender people than letters claiming that he's made their lives difficult somehow. Lots of women attend his lectures. Lots of women buy his books. He's sat down with, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, Camille Paglia, who identifies as a transgender feminist. He did a great podcast with the Femsplainers, which I recommend everybody take a listen to. I think Jordan Peterson's dead on when he says, in order to think, you have to risk being offensive. I don't agree with everything Jordan Peterson says, and I'd love a shot at talking to him. I'd love to pick at his brain a little bit in an interview and get down to the bottom of some things. In my opinion, these radical activists and radical leftists have a problem with Jordan Peterson because he's called them out on their bullshit. I'm not a fan of vegans. I'm not a fan of rappers. I'm not a fan of Latinos. I'm a fan of individuals and complex individuals. I think every one of us has something to offer the world. I think every one of us has room to improve. That's my 2 cents. Let me know what you think in the comment box. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone is today. Peace.